Hi everyone, happy holidays. So I'm sitting here, it's dreary and cold outside, but I have my tea and I made this concoction. It's actually minced ginger in a tea ball. And then I added a shot of apple cider vinegar to it and just a little bit of monk fruit sweetener, and it tastes a little bit like a apple cider tea, like a ginger tea. It's very pleasant. It's actually much more pleasant than I thought it was, so I thought I'd share. But not just I didn't want to just share the tea. Today I wanted to share some thoughts on logo design, because kind of what I do. So, and I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, when you're starting out your business, or even for economic reasons, you're working with tight resources, right? A lot of us are doing that, and you've got to be scrappy, and sometimes you have to DIY a lot of stuff in your business. And so if that's you right now, so one of my biggest pieces of advice for creating your logo is to really focus on what I call the MVB, the minimum viable brand. So what does that mean? Well, it's really basically just a typography based logo, just a font, no symbols or any extra design elements. So this approach really keeps things clean and simple and totally doable until you're ready to invest in a professional designer. Because when you're ready for that, a pro can actually create something that's not only meaningful, but also flexible for web and print. And you may not understand the nuances of those, but they'll give you all the files that you'll ever need for vendors or printers. Includes multiple formats and color variations so that you can stay consistent across all your platforms across the board. And they'll even give you all the color mixes so that you can add them to your Canva brand assets or whatever digital program or app that you're using for your marketing. So if you're lucky enough to have a creative part of, a creative bone in your body, or maybe someone on your team that has design chops, or maybe an affordable designer who's up for the task, I want to gift you my best practices for DIYing a logo that you'll actually be proud of. Because I know I've been there where you're starting from scratch and you have all these other things to do. And even as a designer, it's so hard to design your own logo. So I want to give you kind of the best start and my best practices. And these insights come straight from my years as a brand designer. It really kicked off in the 1990s in Silicon Valley. So in the late 1990s, I should say. So yeah, I've seen a few trends. I've seen a lot of trends, and I've seen a lot of them come and go. And over the years, I've really understood what the fundamentals are of logo design. And those are timeless, right? And I would love to be able to share some of those ideas with you. So if you're starting to build your business or thinking about rebranding, designing a logo can feel so overwhelming, and it's a pretty big deal. Because it really is. Your logo is the face of your brand. It's your silent ambassador, and it quietly introduces your business and leaves a first impression before you ever even say a word. So in fact, actually research has shown that it takes just 5 seconds for someone to form an impression of your brand. And that's how long your logo has to inspire trust and spark curiosity, right? And connect with the right people. So in today's video, I want to share all of these ideas for designing your logo that not only feel aligned with your business, but will also set you apart. So if you can really take these ideas into consideration, I think that it's going to help you a lot. So whether you're creating it yourself, working with someone on your team, or even hiring a designer, the tips will actually help you get started on the right foot. So here's the thing. A well-designed logo is more than just a nice looking logo or a cool logo. It communicates the essence of your brand. It's a communicator. It conveys your personality, your values, what makes you stand out, because it really is. It's your communicator. It's your visual communicator. You've probably heard that like a good handshake leaves a good first impression. Well, it's kind of like that, but on steroids. So if your logo is thoughtfully crafted, people will see it and will automatically build trust, and it will help people remember you. right? So it's a visual shortcut to that intentional perception that you're building for your business. So taking time to get it right is actually worth it. So let's get into it. What makes a great logo? So it all comes down to a few key things. And these are the things that I've learned over the years. And first and foremost, it's simplicity. So a good logo is clean and uncluttered. And the simpler it is, the easier it is to recognize and remember. And think about some of the most iconic logos you know. They're often surprisingly simple, right? Second, it needs to be memorable. And your logo needs to stand out. So don't go look on the internet for other people who do the same thing you do and copy them, right? You want someone else to see it once and instantly connect it to you or your business the next time they see it. Not be like, oh, that looks like Joe Smith's business down the road from me. Or maybe it was so-and-so's business. No, you want your logo to stand out immediately. And also relevance is important. So your logo should reflect your brand's personality and what you offer. It should be relevant. You can't go off on tangents with your logo. It can't be something that is so personal to you that it's unrecognizable by all the people that you're serving. So here's an example. If you're a fun, creative brand, if you're off the cuff, if you're irreverent, your logo needs to feel that way, right? If you're professional and serious, it needs to feel that way and communicate that too. So you kind of understand how the logo has to reflect your business and the intentional perception that you're building. And finally, a great logo works everywhere, really everywhere. So I can't overemphasize this enough, whether it's on a website, social media profile, or a business card, whether it's one color or full color or reversed out on a black background, your logo needs to look just as good when it's tiny in one color as it does when it's blown up on a billboard and it's in full color, right? Now, let's talk, since we're talking color, let's talk color and typography. So these choices can seem small, but they tell a lot about your brand. Colors have a psychological effect. So, for example, blue often feels trustworthy and calm. That's why it's often used in banking and security. And yellow feels optimistic and cheerful. And you might see this color a lot in youthful brands or restaurants. And so when you're choosing colors for your logo, think about the emotions that you want people to feel, right? What words do you want them to associate with your business? I wrote a whole blog post on how to pick a color palette for your brand, and I'll include the link in the email. Okay, so let's move on to typography. So typography, or the fonts that you choose, are just as important. Serif font, the ones with the little feet on the ends of the letters, they often feel very timeless and professional. Sans serif fonts are the ones without the little feet. On the other hand, they're cleaner and they're more modern, and they can often feel very, very fresh. If you're aiming for a more playful or creative sort of style, you might even explore a script or hand-drawn font. But here's the thing. The key here is to make intentional choices pertaining to the design that align with your brand's personality. So if you've worked through my Know Who You Are Brand Explorer workshop, the one that I have available on my website online that you can access, you probably already have a clear sense of your values and your personality, and that foundation will guide you in these design decisions. All right, so let's do this step by step. So once you're ready to start designing, the process can feel a little overwhelming, right? Staring at a blank page can feel a little intimidating, but it doesn't have to be, right? It doesn't have to be intimidating, because all you need to do in the very beginning is just start by maybe revisiting your current brand identity. If you have one, who are you? What do you stand for? If you've gone through the Know Who You Are workshop, pull out your workbook and you can review all of the insights that you wrote down there. These will be extremely insightful and helpful. And I even have basic color palettes that you can use as a starting point based on your archetype, written in my blog on my website. So I'll also link that blog post in the email as well, so you can read about that. But here's my step-by-step. So first, gather inspiration, right? Use Pinterest or Google and look at logos that you admire. Not to copy, not to copy, because you don't want to get confused with your competitors, but to notice what is working and what is not working. What do you like? What doesn't align with your brand? These are all important things to consider when you're looking at other people's logos. You can get inspiration from other logos. You can get inspiration from nature and from art or even everyday objects. And when you're driving to work or picking up the kids, pay attention to all the graphics and all the visual communications that are around you, like the billboards. If you're in a store labels, whatever visual communications that you see happening around you, start paying attention to colors and palettes and fonts. So look at the details, look at the shape, make note of these, or even photograph them if you find something that's like really inspiring. And then when you get home or when you have gathered a bunch of ideas, put them all into a single file in whatever app or software that you prefer to use. You might have a notebook app, or maybe even Canva or Evernote, or anything where you can add images. I like personally to create mood boards before I even begin to start on designs or concepts or think about those ideas. Okay, so once you've gathered all these ideas and you've gathered them all into one place, just review them and get some ideas of how you're going to visually create this language. What symbols are you going to use? What's the style what are the font styles? And I would say, if you want to create an element and not go with the minimum viable brand, and you want to create an element, start thinking about what symbols communicate what you do or what you stand for. Then grab a paper and pencil, and don't worry about making it perfect. It's all about capturing ideas and symbols, and maybe even just writing notes about specific typography or taking note of certain fonts that reflect your brand. Think about what visuals communicate what you do, what you stand for, or how you want people to feel when they see your logo. And then once you've got a few concepts, you can share them with your creative team member, whoever's designing your logo, or your designer if you have an affordable designer that you can use, or take the next step yourself using a digital tool like Canva, or there's other tools like Affinity Designer, Adobe Illustrator. Do your research. You can find a bunch of stuff out there that you can use to maybe do some design in. They are a little harder to learn, so that's why picking up a pen and paper is sometimes the easiest way to do it. But I highly recommend using software if you are creatively inclined and you can learn software pretty quickly, and you've dabbled in them before. Make sure that you're using software that supports vector format. This is important because vector formats are the gold standard for logos, and vector formats are scalable and versatile. So if you start with the vector format now, it's gonna save you time and money later, because trust me, you don't want to pay a printer to convert a logo you created in Photoshop or Procreate into a vector file down the line. It can get kind of expensive to pay for their time to do that. So if you can, if it's at all possible, and it may not be, but if it is, try to design your logo as a vector first. Okay, so and then one last tip for this stage is start in black and white. Okay, this is important too because it helps you focus on the shape and the layout, and allows you to create a one color logo to start without getting distracted by all the colors, because colors can hijack the design process. You could start trying to figure out the design and then get distracted by the colors, and then that color's not working and this color's not working. So eliminate color completely from the entire process in the beginning while you're establishing the look of the logo, the shape of the logo, the elements of the logo. And if you design it in black and white, right, once it works in black and white, you know you're on the right track, and it will always, you can always add color, break it up and add color later, but you can't always go the other way around. So as you refine your design, test it. Look at how it works at different sizes and on different backgrounds. Zoom in big so it's huge on your screen, and then zoom out so it's really, really small. Is it readable? Does it turn into a blobby mess? Make sure it's clear, it's versatile, and communicates the essence of who you are or what you do. And remember, a good logo takes time. So don't be afraid to refine and adjust as you go, and give yourself some space in between your little design sessions to come back to it and look at it with fresh eyes. That's so, so important. And then once you've narrowed in on the design that you like, it's time to prepare it for printing the web. And this is where it may help to have a professional look at your design. They might be able to tweak it, or maybe you just need feedback. So I won't lie here. There are some technical aspects that are important to make note of here. So for example, you need to inspect the colors and make note of the CMYK mix. That's for print. And then you also need to make note of the hexadecimal values. Usually that's a 6 number and letter value. Could be numbers, it could be a mix of numbers and letters. But those are the values that you'll typically use on the web. So print and digital colors. And these colors can usually be found in the properties panel in whatever software that you're working on, because color here is one of the things that you want to be extra consistent with, which is why you need to make note of these colors. And once you have these mixes and these colors, these are set in stone. These are the colors that you're going to use with every marketing piece or on every digital asset. So depending on whether it's digital or print. Print, again, is CMYK, and web is hexadecimal. Sometimes we call them hex. So anyway, also typography, make note of the specific fonts that you're using, because you'll want to be consistent with those two. Those are the two important things to be consistent with. Now, if this process feels a little overwhelming, just know that you don't have to go it alone. Actually, if you just have absolutely no clue and you're starting out, my Know Who You Are Brand Explorer workshop is actually designed to give you clarity around your brand's identity before you even pick up a pencil to design your logo. So in my workshop, I actually dive into the values, the mission, and the vision, but also your personality, which is super helpful for logo design. So by the end, you'll have a clear foundation for your brand, so making it much easier to create a logo that feels aligned, intentional, and impactful. So of course you don't need to go through the workshop. Absolutely, you don't need to go through the workshop to design a great logo. But if you're feeling stuck or unsure to where to start, because sometimes that happens and you've got so many things floating around in your head, my workshop is actually a tool that can guide you in the right direction. And I'll leave the link in the email if you'd like to check it out. So designing your logo is such a creative and exciting process, and it's a chance to tell your brand story in one simple mark. So take your time, have fun with it. Remember, the best logos are sometimes the most simple and direct. And if you have any questions about creating your logo, feel free to hit reply. And I'd love to hear from you. And if you're ready to explore your brand identity a little deeper, you can find the Know Who You Are workshop in the link in the email. So enjoy your designing and reach out if you have any questions.